All right, welcome everybody. This is Dr. Robyn MacKillop with Get That GED, and today we're going to work on Punnett squares for the science test. Now there is a ton of vocabulary, so don't let it throw you. You don't have to memorize it all. You just have to be familiar, because they will never ask you to define any terms. They'll just use it in the instructions. For instance, let me see up here. Do they have a good instruction up here? Like this one, what are the possible genotypes and phenotypes? You need to know what they are, but you don't need to be able to define them, and I will make sure you know what they are before we leave today. All right, so we're going to start with vocabulary. It's not fun, but it's necessary. And actually, I'm going to start with a Punnett square. This is, and we got workers here. I hope it doesn't affect how you guys can hear, because they're drilling and cutting and making all sorts of noise. The dog does not like it. Okay, so this is a Punnett square. It's just a 4-paned square. What it is doing is it's giving you the opportunity to see the possible outcomes of 4 offspring when you know the genotype or the gene structure of the male and the female. So mom and dad, and these are for plants, animals, humans. Now this is a very simplified version of genetics, but it's fun. It's something you could take to a party and enthrall people with. It's fun, but it's not really deep. So, genetics is a huge field, and they're gaining more information every day. This is a very simplified version. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to draw a different square because I don't usually put the tops on it. So here's our Punnett square. The interior are our offspring. The top is the male or the father, and he's going to have, let's talk about freckles. Dad's going to have freckles. Freckles are a dominant trait. So he is going to show freckles. So he's going to be dominant F, and he's going to carry no freckle gene, little f. This will come together. At first, it's going to be very confusing. There's a lot of stuff happening. Mom, and we're going to do this up here. So dad is 2 alleles. These are called alleles when they're individual. Together, it's a genotype. I told you, there's a lot at the up front, and then it gets fun. Trust me. I swear to you, I will not make you bored. So genotype is 2 alleles. Individually, they're just 1 F is an allele. A lot of vocab. And then let's say mom is dominant for freckles. She's just like dad. She carries a dominant gene. She has freckles. You see them. But she also carries a recessive gene, which would be the non-freckle gene. So big F, freckles, and little f, none. No freckles. All right. Now, and remember, dad on the top, mom on the side. Every one of us carries 2 alleles for every trait we have, unless there's a scientific disruption. And we've seen people with scientific disruptions. Anyone who Down syndrome is a scientific disruption, but far greater than what we can show you on a Punnett square. So we're just assuming everything is a go, everything's perfect. Every one of us have 2 alleles. They might both be dominant, they might both be recessive, or we'll have one of each. Dominant always beats recessive. The only time you can have a recessive gene is if they're both small. They both have to be recessive. And then when you have children, You send one of your alleles down to your kiddo, and your partner sends the other. So you have two, whether you're male or female, does not matter. You have two alleles for every trait. If you have children or offspring, you send one allele down and your partner sends one allele. So now that we know what the father is, big F, little f, and the mom, big F, little f, we're going to fill in the offspring. Take from the top and then the side. So this first kiddo is big F, big F. We come to the second kiddo. We're going to take from the top, that's little f, and we're going to take from the side, big F, because you get one from each parent. So you have two. Then we come down to third kiddo, take from the top, that's going to be big F. Take from the side, little f. And the last kiddo, from the top, little f. From the side, little f. And we filled out our four kiddos. And again, I said it was simple. It is, because even if you had 4 children with the same parents, you have no guarantee that they're going to come out like this. They could all be big F, big F. They could all be little f, big F. They could all be little f, little f. You could have a completely different combination. Genetics are so interesting because as soon as 2 cells meet, everything goes back to 0. So this is just a simplified version of a much, much deeper line of study. All right, so what does this mean? We know that the dad had a dominant freckle, so he has freckles. If we looked at him, we would see freckles. He also carries a gene that says no freckles. Same with mom. She's got freckles, we can see them, but she carries a gene that does not. So their first kiddo happened to get a dominant freckle allele from both parents. This kid has freckles. This kid will pass freckles down no matter what. This kiddo, and these two are exactly the same. It doesn't matter that they're little and then big, big then little. It doesn't matter. They're exactly the same. They're just like their parents. They will have freckles. We'll see them, but they carry that recessive gene. So they could have children without freckles. This guy's probably going to have a child with freckles. Now, the fourth kiddo gets a recessive from dad and from mom. This kiddo has no freckles. So, none. Yes, and we can see them, but they carry the recessive gene, which means they can pass on no freckles. This one, same thing. And then this kiddo has freckles and will pass them down. Pretty interesting. And don't worry if it's still a little confusing. It will start to make sense, I swear. All right, so let me go to a new page. All right, so what we've learned so far, an allele is a single trait. And single traits are depicted by capital and small letters. So A, and the letters don't matter. They don't represent anything in particular. It's big, little, big, little. Any letter that is capital is dominant. So whatever trait it's representing, that's the trait you're going to see. And then recessive, you only see recessive traits if somebody has 2 recessive genes. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So if it's dominant, oh wait, let me go back. So together, it's a genotype. it's a full gene. It's what you have, and it's what you'll pass half of to your kids. What's the best way to do that? I'm just going to say 2 alleles. Hopefully that makes sense, but it looks like that. That's a genotype. Then when we were talking about dominant traits, and I said it's what you can see. So if you looked at somebody who was dominant for freckles, they'd absolutely have freckles. They might have a lot of freckles, they might have a few, but you'd be able to see them because it's a dominant trait. That is the phenotype. What you can see, the physical is a phenotype. So think physical, pheno. Geno, gene, so the whole gene. Pheno, physical. What you can see. I tell you, it's a lot of vocab. We're only halfway through the vocabulary. Don't stress. It's okay. Okay, and I'm really raspy. I don't think that is something we can do on a Punnett square, whether you have a raspy voice or not. All right, so far, allele is a single gene. A genotype is the 2 alleles, which is what all of us have. The phenotype is what we can see. So if you have a widow's peak, if you look at your hairline on your forehead, if it kind of goes down into a point, that is a widow's peak. That is dominant. Dom. That'll be a big letter. If your hairline is straight, that is recessive. Interesting. So if you have a slight point in the center of your forehead where your hair grows, you have a dominant gene for hair growth. If your hairline is straight, you have 2 recessive genes for hair growth. Very interesting. All right, let's do some more, and I swear this will make sense. It will be fun. All right, let's look at traits, genes. So these are genotypes that we're going to be talking about. And you have 3 combinations. You can have double dominant. You can have dominant recessive, or you can have double recessive. This is called, here's another word, homogeneous. Homo means same. So this is homogeneous dominant because they're both dominant. They're both capital A's. Homogeneous dominant. This one is homogeneous recessive. So same term because they're both recessive. They're the same. Homogeneous recessive. I should write faster. I'm a really slow writer. I just realized watching myself do this. And then if you have a dominant and a recessive, this one is heterogeneous. And hetero means different. Should play Jeopardy music or something while I write all this. So these are the only 3 combos you can have. If you are double dominant, you're going to send a dominant down to your offspring. If you are heterogeneous, you could send either a dominant or a recessive. If you are homogeneous recessive, you're going to send a recessive gene down to your kiddo. So these don't really matter until we figure out what your partner has. So if you're one parent, you're going to send one of these, but your partner is going to send another, and that will change how your kiddo looks. And that's what we're doing when we take that Punnett square and we put, you've got 4 kids. I know. This doesn't work if you only have 2 kids, right? Really, it's a terribly simplified version of genetics, but it's fun. So let's say dad is double dominant for, what would he be double dominant? Oh, for earlobes. You know how when your ear, let's see if I can, there's your ear and here's your neck. If you have that little divot right there, that is a dominant trait. Some people don't have the divot. Their earlobes go right into their neck, so they don't have that little wiggly piece. And I'm not even sure which one's recessive and which one's dominant, but it's one or the other. So let's just say this one's dominant. Dad is double dominant for a, oh my goodness, that was loud, for a loose earlobe. And it's not loose, it's just he can move it. He's got that little divot. And mom is going to be heterogeneous. So she's got the little divot. That's what you see. That's her phenotype. But she carries the recessive gene, which means she carries the gene for the attached earlobe. And then we're going to fill it in for the kids. So take from dad, take from the top, take from mom, kid 1, kid 2, from the side, from mom, kid 3 from dad, from mom, and kid 4. So what we've got here in our kids, we've got 2 that are double dominant, just like dad, and we've got 2 that are heterogeneous, just like mom. So here's another thing to add to your Punnett square. You are only required to deal with 4 square Punnett squares in GED. And so think about each one as 25%, because they will ask. So each square, 25%. The whole thing is 100. Boy, I'm slow. I didn't realize I wrote so slow. I'm watching myself on the screen. It's really funny. Okay, so that means in this case, for unattached and attached earlobes, we have 50% of the kids with double dominant or homogeneous dominant. We have 50% of the kids heterogeneous. So this is a question that comes up on GED all the time. They love to have you fill out a Punnett square, and then they'll want to know what's the percentage of one or the other, or what are the percents of the children if their parents look like this. So it's not that bad. It will not change. It's 25, 25, 25, 25. And you could technically have combinations of, excuse me, all 4 kids could be the same. So that would be 100%. You could have 3 kids that were the same and 1 kiddo that was different. That would be 75 and 20. Whoops, that's a 2. 75 and 25. Oh man, you can't read that at all. Remember, they always add up to 100. So that's 75 and 25. You could have 50-50, just like we have here. And those are your combos. Those are your possibilities. So it seems like a lot, and I said it would be fun. So let's see if we can make it fun. You learned all the tough stuff. We'll see if you believe me. All right. So here they have a nice little story. In rabbits, black fur is dominant to white. So black is the dominant letter. Big B. White is the little b. If you cross a double dominant male, B, with a heterogeneous female, big B, little b, what are the possible genotypes and phenotypes of the kids? And what's the percent of each? So when we fill it out in, we take from the top, then the side, top, side, top, side, top, side. We end up with 2, just like we did on the other one. We end up with 2 offspring that are double dominant. Double dominant, they have black fur, and there's 50% chance. Then we have 2 that are heterogeneous for black fur. So big B, little b, they show black fur, also 50% chance. The chances will always equal 100%. If they equal more, something's off. Or if they equal less, something's off. So let's try this one that's not filled in. In cabbage butterflies, white wings are dominant to yellow. So white is big W, yellow is small w. And I'm going to clear that. It looks really blurry. That's better. A little bit better. So if we've got a heterogeneous big W, small w, crossed with a homogeneous recessive little, what are the possible genotypes and phenotypes of the offspring? Remember, phenotypes is what you see. It's the physical. And genotypes are just the 2 letters. All right, so let's fill this in. Take from the top. That's the dad's contribution. Little w is the mom's. On this one, dad's contributing a small w or little w. So is mom. For this kiddo, dad gives them a big W, mom a little. And this kiddo gets little and little, double recessive. All right, so your genotypes for the kids. You've got 2 that are big W, little w. So that's one of your genotypes. It means, because they have the big W, they're going to have white wings. You see a white-winged butterfly for these 2. And the chance, there's 2 of them, so it's 50%. The other genotype is homogeneous recessive, 2 little w's. Little w, little w. That means those 2 kiddos have yellow wings. And they also 50%, because the chance will always equal 100. What do you think so far? Good, bad, indifferent? Do you love it yet? Or are you still skeptical of me saying it's fun? It is fun. Once you get past all the ridiculousness, it's fun. All right, let's try this one. In dogs, there's a hereditary type of deafness caused by a recessive gene. 2 dogs who carry the gene for deafness but have normal hearing are mated. So that means deafness is recessive, deaf is small d, and hearing is big D. They say 2 dogs who carry the gene for deafness but have normal hearing are mated. So each dog is big D, little d. And they already filled it in for us. But you may get a question on the GED test that says something like this, and they don't fill it in for you. So you will have to know the dogs can hear, so they have the dominant gene, but they carry the gene for deafness. What are the possible genotypes and phenotypes of their offspring and the percent for each? So this is what you can see. This is the physical. And you can't see deafness, but you would know if a dog could not hear you. All right, so let's fill it in. This first dog, big D from Pop, big D from Mom, little d from Pop, big D from Mom, big D from Pops, little d from Mom, little d from Pops, and little d from Mom. So we've got a little bit of a different combo this time. We have got 3 different genotypes happening with the 4 kids. Big D, little d, big D, same thing, little d, little d. So your genotypes are those 3. You have a big D, you have a big D, and you have a little d, all 3. The phenotypes for these, oh, go back up here. Big D means they can hear. So these dogs can hear. Anything with a big D can hear. The capital letter always is stronger than the recessive until you get to recessive. So this poor guy is deaf. That's not great for that little one. And the chances are, how many big Ds did we have? It is kind of fun. So we've only got 1 big D, and you do it in percents. So that's going to be 25%. Now we have 2 that are heterogeneous, number 2 and number 3. So that's going to be 50%. And then you've got 1 that is homogeneous recessive, and that's 25%. And again, they add up to 100. So perfect. So how do you feel about these? They take some practice. You're probably not going to get it the first time through, but I will be sending you more work, more homework after I get the recording. All right, let's go to the next one. And hopefully this is starting to make some sense. I mean, the vocabulary was a bit much at the beginning, but it starts to make sense as you do it. And phenotype is always the physical manifestation. The genotype is the thing we cannot see. It's how the genes are ordered. And then the chances are we figure that out after we fill in the offspring. All right, let's try guinea pigs. Short hair is dominant. So I'm going to say short is a big S. Long is recessive, so it gets a little s. And I'm going to clear that. I think it's just because I'm on the web and not through Zoom. And it's a little better. So if we've got a short-haired guinea pig, double dominant, big S, crossed with a long-haired guinea pig, little s, little s. You can only see a recessive if both genes are recessive. What are the possible genotypes and phenotypes? All right, so we just fill it in. Big S for dad, little s for mom, Big from dad, little from mom. Big from dad, little from mom. Big from dad, little from mom. Well, look at this. All the kids look the same. That means the genotype is big S, little s. The phenotype, all of these kiddos have short hair. They all kind of look alike. You can tell they're siblings. And you have a 100% chance of getting a heterogeneous offspring. Interesting. All right. Let's do another. Oh, look at this. These are not filled in. Woohoo. All right. Can you curl your tongue up on the sides? You know, when you stick your tongue out, can you curl it? That, who knew, is a genetic trait. Pretty exciting. Tongue curling in humans is dominant. Suppose you've got a man who is heterogeneous for tongue curling. So curl is big T, not is little t. So he can curl his tongue, but he carries a non-curling gene. And then she also can curl her tongue, but she carries that non-gene. Then we're just going to put them together. Big T from the top, from the side, little t, big T, top, side, top, side. And again, we have got 3 genotypes happening with our offspring. We've got a homogeneous dominant, big T, big T. We've got 2 heterogeneous, big T, little t. And we've got 1 double recessive or homogeneous recessive, little t, little t. So what does that mean for what we can see? This kiddo can curl their tongue. These 2 kiddos can curl their tongue. This poor kiddo cannot. So while their family is having a tongue curling contest, this kid is sitting there going, this is really dumb. I can't do it. And so somebody needs to tell that kid, it's all genetics. It's nothing to do with you. So the chance of a double dominant is 25. Man, my voice is gone. The chance of heterogeneous is 50. And the chance of double recessive is also 25. Just like that. What do you think? It's interesting. Let me get some water, see if I can clear this throat. My goodness. Excuse me. Wow. I hope I'm not getting a cold. I just started teaching in class too. I always get sick the first week. All right, last one for this page. In guinea pigs, we've got rough coats with lots of swirls are dominant. So R is swirly. Little r is smooth. So we've got a homogeneous dominant, which is big R, crossed with a heterogeneous dominant, or heterogeneous because there's only one, big R, little r. Then you fill in the boxes from the top and side, top, side, top, side, top, side. And then you can figure out what you've got. So we have 2 homogeneous dominant, which means 50. And we have 2 heterogeneous dominant, big R, little r, also 50% because there's 2. And what we see in all of them, they all have dominant traits. They're all swirly. We did not get any offspring with smooth fur, but one of these 2 could have children with smooth fur. Depends on who they mate with. If one of these 2 mated with somebody like them who showed swirly but carried the recessive, they could very easily, just like up here, have a smooth coated kiddo. They could have 3 dominants or 3 rough coated kiddos, 1 smooth, and 2 would carry that recessive smooth coat. What do you think? Good, bad, indifferent?
It will be good with the extra practicing.
Yes, and I will send you all extra practice.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, it'll be a little more in depth. I also sent you a cheat sheet, so it's got the vocabulary and the definitions. And
Okay, that's very interesting.
yeah, it's just a cheat sheet. You don't have to do anything on it. It's just a reference sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot. There's so much you have to learn in order to pass all 4 tests. It's a lot. And you're not, just because you know this now, if you take your test next month, you might forget some of it. It's inevitable. And that way, at least you've got some reference sheets to remind yourself when you get closer. So
yeah, we need to practice more different, because sometimes they put in exam, they put different and tricky way.
yes, they do. And I'll make sure that you've got some of those.
Oh,
GED loves to turn questions around. So you learn it, even in math, you learn it one way, and then they'll present it to you kind of backwards. But that's not how you learned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Practice.
So I try to make sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's only practice can help to get those stuff tricky way, at least to get extra points.
Yes. Yeah, because the more points you can get, the better.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch back to this. I was going to show you, see if my voice holds, something that's kind of fun are blue eyes and brown eyes. Brown eyes are dominant. The majority of people in the world are brown-eyed. Blue eyes are an anomaly. They are recessive. So brown eyes rule. Blue eyes, you have to have 2 blue-eyed parents to get a blue-eyed child. However, brown-eyed people can have blue-eyed children. They can have brown-eyed children, they can have blue-eyed children. But blue-eyed parents can only have blue-eyed children. Here's why. This is what happens. In order to have blue eyes, you have to be recessive. So the male has blue eyes. Mom also has blue eyes. When you fill this out, there are no dominant letters, are there? So blue-eyed parents can only have blue-eyed children. But brown-eyed parents can have blue-eyed kids, because a whole lot of people with brown eyes carry the recessive blue. So their eyes are brown, but they have that recessive gene. And the interesting things about, or the interesting thing, about genes is they can carry on for generations before you see them. Because remember, each parent sends one down to the kid. So the kid gets 2 alleles. Parents had 2 each. Each sent one down to the kiddo. The kiddo now has 2. So each parent sends one of their 2 alleles down to their kid. In this case, the dad for this kiddo sent the dominant brown. Mom also sent the dominant brown. For this kiddo, dad sent the recessive blue. Mom sent the dominant brown. For this kiddo, dad sent the dominant brown. Mom sent the recessive blue. And for this kiddo got the recessive from dad and the recessive from mom. So we have one brown-eyed kid with no recessive genes, and that would be 25%. We've got 2 kids that have brown eyes, but carry the blue-eyed gene, and that would be 50. And then we've got 1 kiddo in this family of brown-eyed people who had blue eyes because he got the recessive from both parents. And what's really interesting, this happens every so often. And again, it can be generations before you see this, which can be disconcerting. I'm going to go back to me. Say you were a family with dark skin and generations, everyone you've ever seen that is related to you has brown eyes. And then one day, somebody has a kiddo and the kid's got blue eyes. So that can throw people. They can be like, wait a minute, what, were you getting with the mailman? What happened here? Those recessive genes could have come into play hundreds of years ago. Think about in the United States, you know, we had slaves. They were raped often by their owners who were white. And so these people with black skin, black hair, and dark brown eyes ended up carrying lighter genes, lighter hair gene, lighter color hair genes, lighter eye gene. They carried that recessive blue, but maybe it didn't even show up until 5 generations later. So it's really fascinating. Genetics is such an interesting study because there's no hard and fast answer. You have no way of knowing unless they create you in a petri dish. And who wants that, right? So it could be years or generations before you see a trait that is actually in your lineage. And so it's a good thing to know, and that way nobody's shocked. It's kind of like if you're going to do your DNA through ancestry.com or what is that, 23andMe, be prepared that you have a sibling out there. Yeah, don't do it if you don't want to know. But if you do it, you could potentially find relatives you had no idea existed. Because who knows what happened at some point? You know, someone may have been adopted out. Someone may have been in a tragedy and there was a baby and they didn't know what to do with it, so they gave it to the next family. All sorts of things can happen. And so genetics are really interesting. And it's good to know them for health reasons. It's nice to know what things might affect you. But with genetic testing now you can do it. You can go to a medical facility and have them see if you carry like the BRCA gene for breast cancer or any of that. It's super interesting. So, and if you're interested in genetics, you can probably get a really good job because it's a growing industry. People want to know, and it actually helps over time to alleviate diseases. So it's pretty cool. It is kind of fun. Does anyone have questions? That about wraps it up, but I'm going to send you extra work when I get the recording, and hopefully it records well because it's not in my Zoom, it's on the web. I look terrible. My lighting is not working on the web. Any questions? All right, I am going to let you go then. I will send you some more stuff to work on. Do check out the cheat sheet.
I have
And
a question, please.
Oh, yes.
For the chapter you already posted in your post for like GED with the price $199, is that cover all those skills you teach us now?
That price is wrong. I will send you a better pricing thing. That's old, and someone put that together for me, and I didn't check it. Okay. They were basing the prices on something. It'll be a lot less.
Yeah, I'm interested. If you don't mind, you can send to me. I need it because I already tried the first attempt in science, but I didn't pass for 4 points. I got 141. I should get 145. But now I'm starting all over about all details like you teach us now, all skills, the tricky stuff. I didn't pay attention because the time was running. And science is like English. You should pay attention to what they say first, then you go back to question. If I miss understanding in the paragraph, I cannot answer exactly what they mean.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to pay attention for all details. If that chapter can help, I will get it, please. If you can send me all the information, I will pay and go for it because I don't want to try and fail. I want to pass.
I understand. And it's frustrating to be that close.
Yes, yes.
They should make it so if you're not going to pass, you get such a low score that you're like, whatever.
Yeah, but at least pass. Yeah, at least pass. After in college, you can work more harder.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. I'll send you that info.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, any other questions before I let you all go? All right, that's it for this week. If you have questions, be sure to email me or message me. I gave you extra work for language arts for those who were in the language arts. And so if you do that and you want to send that in, I will make sure that you're on track. And I sent you hard ones on purpose because you're going to get some hard ones. And so I figure if you get used to it now, you'll ace the test. And then I'll give you another science thing to work on for Punnett squares. Next week in science, we're going to start chemical equations. We're probably going to have to do those for a couple weeks. They are not simple. It's one of those things where you'll be really frustrated for probably the first 2 class periods. And then all of a sudden it'll start to gel. But it's one of those things that doesn't come quickly. I don't know why, because it's odd. It's not the way we think about letters or whatever. It's just not. It's a new way of thinking. And so you have to get your brain used to that. So we'll do them because they're important. They show up all over the science test. And once you've got them, you're just like, well, these weren't that hard. But it takes a bit to get them. It's just the nature of it. So, all right. All of you have a great day, and I will see you on Monday. But if you have any questions, email, put them in the group, message me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome, all of you.
Happy Wednesday, and waiting for the package, please.
Perfect. I will send it out.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, Nizam. Bye, Nazifo. Sarah, see you later. I'll send you the email, Sarah. Bye, Stephanie. I hope you liked it.
Bye.
Stephanie said it was kind of fun, so that's good. All right. Have a great day, you guys.
Same to you.